Hello, thanks for joining us from our studios in Tel Aviv. Coming up in today's newscast, the Palestinian Authority is under fire for supporting terrorism. ILTV has an exclusive look at the aftermath of the terror in Jerusalem and will reveal what huge medical breakthrough has been achieved in the Holy Land. I'm Natasha Kirchuk here with the latest news in Israel. Israel is already taking drastic measures to stop the wave of terror following this week's devastating attacks. As an immediate measure, police are beginning to go after Palestinian workers who are legally residing in Israel.
Israeli police have arrested hundreds of illegal Palestinian workers and dozens of Israeli employers in a series of recent raids. Over 270 people have been detained, and police say they're cracking down on illegal workers in light of the wave of terror. The Israeli Prime Minister has ordered a number of immediate steps to combat the onslaught of terror attacks, part of which is making sure illegal workers are banned from entering Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel will also repair gaps in the security fence near Jerusalem, implement harsher penalties for those who help Palestinians illegally enter Israel, and shut down Palestinian media channels that broadcast incitement. The IDF also arrested 31 Palestinians overnight, including family members of the Yaffo terrorist and several others who are suspected in helping with recent terror attacks.
The Palestinian Authority's response to the rampage of terror attacks in Israel this week is sparking lots of outrage. Both Israeli and American leaders are condemning the Palestinian president for his support of the violence.
The Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden, is calling out Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas for his failure to speak out against the terror attacks. In a press conference yesterday afternoon in Jerusalem, Biden said that civilized leaders cannot view terror activity as appropriate behavior.
The United States of America condemns these acts and condemns the failure to condemn these acts. This cannot become an accepted modus operandi. This cannot be viewed by civilized leaders as an appropriate way in which to behave, even if it appears to inure to the benefit of one side or the other. It's just not tolerable in the 21st century.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is offering his condolences to Joe Biden over the murder of the U.S. citizen Taylor Force during Tuesday's terror attack in Yaffo. Yet he stopped short of condemning the attack. The PA president is instead stressing the fact that Israel has killed more than 200 Palestinians in the past 5 months. But he hasn't mentioned that those deaths primarily include terrorists killed during attacks or violent rioters confronting the IDF. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Authority's official news station is also calling the terrorist from Tuesday's terror attack a martyr. 22-year-old Palestinian Bashar Masalha killed an American tourist and injured 10 other civilians. Now Palestine TV is saying he was martyred during the attack, referring to the incident as a complex operation carried out by a martyr to kill Jewish settlers. The official Twitter account of the PA's ruling party Fatah also described the Yaffo attacker as a martyr. The PA-controlled media regularly refers to Palestinian assailants killed during attacks as martyrs, but stopped short of calling Israelis within the Green Line settlers.
Jerusalem has been the site of many terror attacks in the most recent wave of terror. So I decided to head over to the Holy City to see how the violence is having an impact on the area. It turns out business owners in the Old City are feeling the after effects of the terror.
The current wave of terror in Israel erupted in October of 2015. Since then, over 30 Israelis have lost their lives, including an American, an Eritrean, and a Sudanese. Israeli forces have killed over 160 Palestinians, most of whom were shot down while carrying out attacks against Israelis. Jerusalem has been the center of many of these terror attacks, and local business owners are feeling the heat.
It's becoming harder than before, of course, but people who live in the old city, they have to keep living.
I hear that many Arabs also, they are avoiding to visit the other side, West Jerusalem. So it has influence, bad influence on both sides. And of course, if you talk about economy, if you talk about business, it's bad. Of course, it's bad. It's bad for everyone.
It might be surprising, but local vendors in the Old City say the majority of their business comes from Christian tourists on tours to visit the Holy Land. The data from Israel's Central Bureau of Statistics proves it. In 2013, it turns out that over 50% of Israel's incoming tourists were Christians. Interestingly enough, Muslim vendors mainly run and operate the shops in the Old City's Christian quarter. One of those vendors claims fewer visitors are entering the old city since a new wave of violence in Israel began.
It has been affected, of course, because people prefer to travel to places where they're quiet. I'm a Muslim, I sell Christian stuff, and I have lots of Jewish friends, and Jewish merchants come here, But again, as I told you, business is one thing, and having a political aspiration is something else, and people want it,
But it looks like the heightening violence isn't pushing business owners in the old city to close up shop. One vendor says his connection to Jerusalem is too deep to abandon the holy city anytime soon. Does it make you want to leave?
Leave? No. Jerusalem? No. Me? No. And most of us, I don't think, we don't have this mentality to leave. Jerusalem is part of us. For us, for me personally, and most of the people, it's part of us.
While local business owners are concerned about declining tourism, many visitors say the violence isn't deterring them from visiting Jerusalem.
One of the first questions I'm always asked is, are you fearful? And no, was not fearful at all about coming. And we're very interested in the past, how it affects today, and being a part of other cultures. So we try to, anywhere we go, we try to get to as many historical places as we can.
Another vendor in the Holy City claims business isn't waning because of the recent wave of terror. Instead, he says group tours are pulling tourists away from Jerusalem's old city.
A lot of tourists who come to the old city has been driven away from the old city before these things started in the beginning. There's lots of companies who control the tourist industry here now, who brings groups and just take them to certain places where they can get a huge kickback from them. It's becoming harder than before. In the older times, it used to be easier that people are left alone to come and wander by themselves and see things.
So what are the ultimate hopes and dreams of local vendors in the old city despite the violence? I had to ask.
Well, personally, I like to see Jerusalem as the capital of the world, that everybody can come and see it and enjoy it without any saying this is only Jewish city, or it's a Palestinian city, or Muslim city, or Christian city.
As the terror continues to rage on in Israel, we've learned about lots of different heroes that have risked their lives to stop the violence. Sadly, many of their stories have ended with tragedy when they've lost their lives in action. Zidan Saif is an example of one of Israel's lost heroes. The Druze police officer was murdered a year and a half ago when he attempted to stop a terrorist from shooting up a synagogue in Jerusalem. His cousin Haitham Saif joins us with the story. Thanks for coming in.
Good evening, Natasha. Thanks you for having me here.
It's a pleasure. So tell us a little bit about your cousin, Zidan.
Well, Zidan was born on July 26, 1984. He was born as the third son of a family of 6. He had 3 brothers, 2 sisters, and ever since we were kids, we actually grew up together. He was dreaming about being a security man or a police officer. So after he graduated from high school, he immediately joined the army, the compulsory service, for 3 years. And immediately after this, he worked a little while in a factory. But all this time we were in contact, and he always talked about joining the police force. This was like his dream. So after he passed all the process of recruiting to the police force, I still remember this. He called me and he was very excited. He actually told me I made my dream come true. So I was very happy for him, and he was recruited to the traffic police force in Jerusalem. And unfortunately, where he there met his tragic death.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Can you kind of walk us through what happened in the terror attack in Jerusalem?
Yeah, actually, the terror attack that took Zidan's life took place on, if I remember right, November 18th, November 18th, 2014. 2 terrorists from the West Bank. They were carrying knives, 2 guns, and a butcher's knife. And they entered the synagogue at the Har Nof neighborhood in Jerusalem, and they started to slaughter worshippers there. It was about 7 a.m. in the morning. We got reports starting from 7:30. Actually, I was still in my house when I heard the report, and we all were shocked. So it's...
And so Zidane went and he essentially
Yeah,
threw himself
so-
in front of these people, right?
Yeah, he was on duty on a routine patrol at the time, and when he heard the report that people are being slaughtered at the synagogue, he immediately, without second thought, he went there and he charged at the terrorists. And by doing so, I believe he saved many lives, because when the terrorists saw him charging at them, they panicked out, they freaked out, and they decided to try to escape. So after a fierce firefight, where Zidane actually took one life of one terrorist, but unfortunately the second terrorist, he shot him in the head. He got a bullet. He got a fatal injury, which he couldn't make it out alive.
So, you know, what's so interesting about this story is the fact that, you know, your cousin is Druze, and he protected these Jewish people. He wanted to serve for Israel, you know, despite having not the typical identity in this country. And because of what happened, it's kind of paved the way for a special relationship between the Druze community and also the Orthodox community as well. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, actually, ever since Jews started to come to Israel and to build this country, we made a pact with the Jews. So we do compulsory army, 3 years, and actually most of our youngsters, they continue, they make a career out of it. About, I guess, 40–50% of our youngsters continue in this field, in the national security field. And you know, after the funeral, a lot of Jews, not only Jews, all over the all congregations from all over the country, they came to the funeral, they shared our sorrow. And it's actually strengthened and deepened the relationship between Jews and Druze in this country.
You're now part of an organization whose main purpose is to honor the memory of your cousin. How do you plan to do this?
Well, first of all, of course, we will build a memorial in the memory of Zidane, and not only Zidane, and for the other victims of the terror attack. We are planning, our main goal is on the educational level. Lots of our youngsters, they don't have academic education. So our purpose is to raise the percentage of youngsters that go to academics. And also in the employment field. Not all our youngsters find jobs, suitable jobs for raising a family. So we are trying to build mentoring programs and training programs for these youngsters, especially high schoolers, and to guide them through these programs for a better future.
Absolutely. Now, if somebody is watching this and they want to make a contribution or somehow join your organization, how can they do that?
Well, we established a website which includes a brief summary about the Druze community, about Zidane's life, and we will be happy to receive any donations in order to achieve our goals. And I repeat, our goals are all voluntarily goals, and we aim only for a better future for our youngsters.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like what you guys are doing is headed in the right direction, and more young Druze people will be pursuing an education. So good job.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Palestinian women are turning more and more towards Israel for reproductive health care, especially because the Palestinian government continues to ban abortions, even if pregnancy is a result of a crime.
According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, doctors are only permitted to perform abortions when the pregnancy endangers a mother's life, but not if it's a peril to her mental health. In the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, women who are victims of rape or incest are forced to either have their baby or seek risky back alley methods for abortions. Even opting for emergency contraception can be dangerous, because medications like the morning after pill are very taboo. And if a woman actually ends up having an illegal abortion in the Palestinian territories, she could face up to 3 years in jail. Given the difficult access to reproductive health care, pregnant Palestinian women are turning to Israel, where the laws are far more permissive. In Israel, abortion is available once approved by a medical committee, and Palestinian women living in East Jerusalem have free access to Israeli hospitals. When it comes to women entering Israel from the West Bank and Gaza, their cases are generally handled by human rights groups. Despite the resources, the most recent data from Israel's Central Bureau of Statistics in 2013 shows that only 15% of those who had abortions in Israel were Palestinian.
It looks like Israeli researchers have achieved yet another medical breakthrough. A Haifa-based biotech firm claims they've developed a treatment that could cure patients suffering from exposure to radiation.
The Haifa-based biotech firm Pluristem Therapeutics has announced that its placenta-based cell therapy has the ability to fully cure patients with multiple organ failure. The company uses donated placentas from women who have undergone a C-section to harvest cells to create a cocktail of therapeutic proteins which combat lethal exposure to radiation. The proteins can reverse damage to the lungs, skin, bone marrow, and gastrointestinal tract caused by radiation exposure.
I've been investigating the placenta for the last decade, and we have discovered that the placenta cells have unique properties that can help the body to recover after exposure to high level of radiation. And with these cells, we are injecting these cells to the body's muscles, and over there, they capture stress signal from the body, and they start secreting factors like GCSF or interleukin-6 that will help the bone marrow to recover after irradiation.
In January, the radiation therapy was cleared by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for clinical trials. Pluristem President Yaki Yanai said clinical trials have so far shown optimal results if the vial is injected within 48 hours of exposure to lethal radiation.
We invested the last 10 years in developing the therapy, so it will be very easy to use, off the shelf and readily available. We designed it to be simple to be treated in the combat field or in case of the catastrophe itself. You just have to take the vial, take the cells out and inject it into the patient muscle. So we will be able to treat, or the agencies will be able to treat a lot of people in short time.
Plus, the Israeli placenta treatment provides a new and less expensive option for patients exposed to radiation. The only other available therapy that exists is bone marrow transplants, which require DNA compatibility and are very costly.
I wish that our therapy was available 5 years ago when we had the Fukushima disaster, or 30 years ago when we had the Chernobyl, not mentioning the Second World War, which was a significant exposure to radiation. I believe that if our therapy was available then, all of us could see a much better outcome than it was, which actually was. So our goal is to develop a defense as a countermeasure, biological defense as a countermeasure for acute radiation syndrome for any radiation event across the globe. It can be either terror attack or nuclear melting, but I hope that our therapy will be there.
Pluristem has already partnered with Japan's Fukushima Medical Therapy, and American officials have expressed an interest in stockpiling the treatment in the United States in case of a nuclear catastrophe. The company's chairman says a radiation therapy could be a great asset to Israel as well.
We are living in an area which have a variety of threats, including nuclear bombs and radiation catastrophe. So we developed the product in mind that those may happen. When the Fukushima disaster happened, it inspired our feeling that we have to do it stronger and quicker, and we developed an aggressive plan in order to bring the product into awareness. And today, with the NIH support and the cooperation with Fukushima Center, we strongly believe that we can bring that product to cure many patients.
All this talk about healthcare brings us to our Hebrew word of the day. Today's word is briut, which means health in Hebrew. Briut is extremely important, and Israelis actually use the word in lots of different phrases. For example, if someone sneezes, you can say la briut, or to health. It's basically just the Hebrew equivalent of bless you. While the word health is usually used to wish positive things onto other people, it's actually used in Hebrew slang for a more negative purpose. The word healthy in Hebrew is bari. And if you make someone angry in Israel, an Israeli might respond by saying shetiyeh bari, or may you be healthy. They're being 100% sarcastic, and they're probably wishing you just the opposite. But don't take it hard. Israelis can have quick tempers, which is why mental health care is so important over here. On a more serious note, briut is really important to Israelis, and Israel is a pioneer in the medical field. So whether you want to receive a revolutionary medical treatment or just eat a healthy meal, Israel's a great place to visit. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. The weekend is finally here. Friday is expected to be sunny with a high of 71 degrees, so it looks like the perfect day to take a walk on the beach. Saturday should be mostly cloudy, but the temperature will go up to 79. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.89 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at ILTV.tv, and don't forget to check out our evening update every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tonight.